In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Hey family, welcome back to another Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so glad that you made space to be here with us today. Now, before we get into this episode, do me a quick favor. If you're feeling the vibe, go ahead and show us some love. Tap that screen, like, comment, and share this with someone who might need a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here or you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that follow button, subscribe to our channel, so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. And I do want to personally invite each and every one of you to check out our digital home at selfcareclub.org, where you'll find everything from affirmative apparel, motivational merch, and a lot of free resources to nourish your growth and remind you that you're supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, and most importantly, for you. Now, if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to drop a green heart in the chat. It's our way of saying I'm healing, I'm growing, and I am showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Family, I want you to help me welcome the amazing Tisha Wilson into the Room to Breathe. Tisha is a published author, motivational speaker, and she is the visionary behind Sparkle, Manifest, Grow. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology, and she has done incredible work in the mental health rehabilitation community, helping others navigate trauma and reclaim their sense of self. She is also the author of Shattered Illusions, Life with an Undiagnosed Narcissist, and she has an upcoming book that drops October the 3rd, titled Sparkle, Manifest, Grow, Your Glow Up Guide. Now, Sparkle, Manifest, Glow is what God placed on her heart as a ministry. And through that, she is empowering women to heal, to set boundaries, and to fully step into their glow. So before we get into her story, let us check in with your soul queen. How is your spirit doing today?
Oh, always blessed, and highly favored.
Amen. That's what I like to hear. And I am so glad that you are here with us today. I cannot wait to share you with the family.
Me too. I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. From the moment we had our chemistry call, I was like, oh, this is not going to be just a conversation. This is a testimony of truly going from someone being shattered to someone who is now glowing, who is now shining. Yes. And so I really know that this, all of my Feature Fridays are therapeutic and they're all healing. But I know that this conversation today is going to be healing. And it's just going to be such an inspiration for anyone who has ever felt broken, silenced, dimmed, right? Yeah. All the things that we feel with the narcissist, yes. Right?
Yes. And it is Sparkle, Manifest, Grow. Mm-hmm. Sparkle as in regaining your shine, getting your shine back. Manifest as in that walk from going from where you are right now in your brokenness to where you want to be, to what you are becoming. And grow, referring to the growth that it's just going to take to get there. And I like with Sparkle, Manifest, Grow it's more than just a slogan. It is actual practical steps for getting from where you are, what you've been going through, to where you want to be, to where you are becoming the best version of yourself. Not in any platitude way, not in any fake kind of way, but in true authenticity. It's authenticity we're looking for. I want to be able to really speak to someone, to really be able to give them the steps to get out of that toxic, negative, bad situation, whether it be with a partner, in a job, or even sometimes from yourself. Because sometimes we are the most toxic person in our own lives without even realizing it. Because
Right.
we are empaths, we often think of ourselves as good or pure or trying to be the best. We always start with the best intentions towards everyone else
Right.
but ourselves, so much so that we often forget about ourselves. It
Yeah.
is really about incorporating yourself and realizing that you are special. You are the reason. You have a purpose that is bigger than just getting by or paying bills or putting up with someone else's toxic behavior. My darling,
Right.
you have a whole universe inside of you, and you are worth it, and you are worthy, and you deserve to do this work to get to know yourself a little bit better.
Amen. Listen,
Mhm.
before we jump head into the movement and the books and all the amazing work that you do,
All
I want to
things.
take things back. Exactly, right? All the amazing things. I want to introduce them to the women you were before the storm. What was life like for you before everything changed?
Well, I could say this. I could say this. When I met my narcissist or my partner, I was very much in transition. I was very much in a place where I had been married before,
Mhm.
and I had a partner that cheated on me. And so instead of healing from that situation and getting back with myself and getting back with God, I got angry. If we're being honest, I got angry and I ran from God in I ran headlong into a lot of situations that I should have necessarily not been in. And I'm talking clubbing, I'm talking drinking to excess, falling out, doing just a lot of crazy things. And so I had to go through just the wilderness. I was really down. I was really hurt. I was struggling financially. I hadn't gotten a handle on my bills. I hadn't figured out how to properly take care of myself. I think the only person I really solidly took care of during that time was my daughter because, for me, I can't see a kid struggling. I can't see. Everything I did was geared towards her. But if there was anything towards myself, oh man, I was in toxic relationships. I ended up having to get a restraining order on one guy because he really mistook the assignment and thought that he was going to place hands, which no,
Mm.
we don't play about that at all. And so when I met my ex, my now ex, I was in such a broken place. I did not experience any growth. I did not experience any healing, even though I was trying. I had gotten a place to live, but I was drowning financially. And I was about one step away from, like, I was one good cold away from not being able to work, from losing my whole house. And then we would have to move back in with my mother and so on and so forth. And so when I met my ex, who is a narcissist, one thing about a narcissist you'll have to understand is they love to see you in a broken place. They love to see you in a place where you're vulnerable, where you're trying, but not quite getting there. Because what they know is if they can get a foothold in on your growth, on your healing, then they can have some say in it or even take responsibility or credit for the fact that when they help you come up, that they gave you that help. They never let you forget that they gave you that help. So he was one of the first guys I was dating that was like financially stable, taking care of his kids, had his mind on what I thought, family oriented things. And so I was like, this is an okay guy. And then I got sick. And
Mm.
so when I got sick, exactly what I thought was going to happen happened. I'm laid up on the couch for 2 weeks. They're getting ready to shut my lights off. I'm looking for the repo man for my car outside. And here he comes. He's the hero. He's the captain. I hadn't been talking to him very long, but he came along and it looked like it was just the answer to my prayers. And he was like, yeah, let me go ahead and Western Union you that money real fast. I was like, what? He's like, I hear you going through the struggle. I hear you. And so they come in and they're like these knight in shining armor, gonna save my life, save me from myself, because I was drowning, and when he did that, so when he stepped in, he said, I'm gonna pay all your bills for you this month, and that kept me from getting evicted, and but he not only made an impression on me, he made an impression on my family. My family was very protective of me, and they saw me struggling. They had hands open, ready if I was going to fall, they were going to catch me. But I was really struggling just to try to do it myself. But he stepped in, and they went, "Oh, what a good guy! What a good person!" And that's something that we don't realize enough, is that a narcissist isn't necessarily always going to project a bad person, and a narcissist can still do good things,
Right.
but the motive is always going to be a little different. Because now he got a foothold in with me. He got a foothold in with my family. I hadn't healed enough to have boundaries or know what my boundaries were. With him paying that money, I kind of introduced him to everything, to my family, to my finances. I got online with this guy, and I'm telling him everything, because I was way here in Vegas on the West Coast, and he's way on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so I was like, he's not in it for sex, because that's what you would think automatically. That's not what he's in for. But we would have these long conversations. And here's something else I used to say that people used to think was so impressive. Oh, ever since we met each other, my friend introduced us, she thought we'd be a good fit. We haven't been out of touch with each other for more than 2 hours at a time. And that was a true statement. From the moment I woke up, I'm texting him what I'm doing. When I went to sleep, I'm texting him what I'm doing. We're texting each other all day. Sometimes he would text me in the middle of the night. And if I happened to get up, I would shoot a text message, bleary-eyed, and in the grooming phase. What they learn from this is, they're always going to be available to me. They're always going to communicate with me. I always have a way in with this person. And then don't let it be that you missed your 2-hour check-in, because now we have explaining to do. Now we have, it happened quickly, but not quickly at the same time, because we did date long distance for about a year. But I will not call myself dumb. I just was operating on some different principles at that time. I told him, while you're over there, do what you need to fulfill your needs, and I'll do what I need to fulfill my needs. But when we're together, that's when we'll be together. So when another woman of his called me out of the blue, who are you and why are you messaging him so much? I was like, that sounds like something you need to talk to him about. Oh God, with a big head, I looked at this woman and said, that sounds like something you need to talk to him about. And it's all right. It's okay now to look back and say the things, because I can take my responsibility where it is. I inserted myself so far into that situation because I viewed this guy as the guy, the one, but the red flags were there. When other women start calling you saying, why are you talking to my boyfriend? There should definitely be, but I wasn't trying to have that conversation with myself. I was really just trying to escape from my own damage, from my own, and here we are in this world that teaches us that another person should complete you, that there is completion in another person. And so I was looking for my other half. And because I was broken, I didn't mind if he was broken a little. I didn't mind that, we were a little broken together, as long as we were taking care of our kids. And if you let him tell it, that was what he was doing. He was just there taking care of his kids. Because he had 5 kids, and I didn't want to have any more kids out of me. I only had one, and I was like, well, that's perfect. You've got plenty of kids.
Yeah. Right. Like
So,
you're the missing piece to all of this. I like this. Yeah.
and I even said this. Ooh, why would you be single? If someone is single and it seems too good to be true, it might be because it is too good to be true. And I said, he's taking care of his kids. He's making all this money. He's working all these hours. You know, he makes time to talk to me. He's concerned about me, where I'm at, and he talks to me all the time. And why would anybody leave? But yet and still, already on the field is this lady calling me up out of nowhere. And so
Right.
I tried to push past that.
Mm-hmm.
That whole situation, and we did eventually end up meeting face to face, and we did it, but it was like we met face to face, and the first time was wonderful, and my kids, and I met his kids, and I fell in love with his kids. The second time, not so much. Second time, more red flags started to fall in the field, because after the first time I met him, we were supposed to move in together. We were supposed to go straight to moving in together after that first time, and that was only like 6-7 months in. So first of all, that would have been crazy. But I said, you know, I'm tired of this long distance thing. It was so nice to meet you and all this other stuff. And then I get the shoe drop, and he's like, well, I just want to tell you something. My ex is moving in. What? He's
Now let me clutch my pearls. Wait a minute, girl. I didn't wear my pearls today. Hold on. What now?
Listen, he's like, because 3 of his kids lived with that ex, and he's like, the 3 kids, you know, she doesn't have work anymore, so they want to come live at my house, and they won't come unless she comes. And I was like, but listen, me and my daughter are supposed to be moving in there. So you think I'm going to move in there with me, my daughter, your ex, your 5 kids, dog, cat, everything. We just all going to right on top of each other. And he was like, well, I don't have no other choice. My kids need me. And, you know, so then because he kept mentioning kids, I'm such a sucker for taking care of kids. I love kids. Whatever I can do. So I said, okay, do you think that they could take over their room, their part of the house, whatever, and then we just take over? And he got quiet. And I was like, oh, okay. So, all right. You go ahead and move them in, but I'll tell you what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to move my daughter into an uncomfortable situation. So we're going to just cancel all of this plans to move and everything. But I didn't break up with him, you know, because like he's the lip service he's given is it's nothing. It's not a big deal, you know, because it's because of the kids, and he kept pushing the kids in my face. And so to be a good girlfriend, I was like, okay, well, I'll be a good girlfriend, whatever. But I did insist on, when I came back out there to visit again, because I had shot a TV show. If you read my book, you'll see the crazy sequence of events that led to me going out to South Carolina to shoot a television show. And so I was like, perfect. Then this is a chance for us to meet up and I'll meet the ex, and I'll meet the kids and all this other stuff. And so then he said, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. And so then I bought flowers, all of this stuff that I was like planning to meet the kids. I was very excited.
Yeah.
Then it came up 8 p.m. Like first, you know, normal dinner time, 5 p.m. He's not there. Comes up 8 p.m. He's still not there. By 10 p.m., I'm like, this is crazy. And the fact that you had to check in and you're not looking for me, like my little heart was shattered. And so I did. I told, you know, he finally ended up showing up around 10:30 or so. And I was like, so are we, it's really late. We're not going to be able to go see the kids. And he had this look, and I was like, yeah, you never planned for me to go meet the kids or your ex. So you have these people living in your house and you think I'm a fool. You think I'm dumb. Oh, no. He stayed with me. We did like the nighttime thing and had drinks and fun and all of this. And I went back to Vegas and blocked him. I mean, I blocked him. I was like, you really think that I am slow that you're going to have someone living in your house. And I had an opportunity to meet them, and no. So I blocked him, but I felt that feeling that you feel, because when you're with a narcissist, it's almost like a drug. You miss the crazy highs and the crazy lows. It felt like I had almost found this person who was going to complete me. And then I fell off the face of the earth because he wasn't with me. He didn't want me anymore. He didn't need me anymore. And I was so, one thing that we need to acknowledge as we're going through the narcissistic and empathic dynamic
Mhm.
is that at the same time that you are experiencing this, you are still going to have your normal mental health situation. And I've always had a little bit of hyperactivity slash depressive. You know,
Yeah.
I've always been a little manic depressive. So when this thing happened, I crashed so hard, and I was trying to go back to my regular job and be a parent to my daughter, and it was really hard. But I knew I'd get over it. I've been through divorce, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was another of my friends. Now here's another thing: narcissists travel in packs. You know, if they can feed off of each other, if they can
Mhm.
triangulate off of each other. And so I had a few friends who were very narcissistic, but this was a friend who had the friend who introduced us, and she called me up. Oh, and it was crazy what she said. And now to hear it back, I was like, how did I fall for this? But she called me and she was like, listen, she knew what to do. You cut it off with him and didn't let the kids say goodbye to him, didn't let your daughter say goodbye to him, and you didn't say goodbye to his kids, and you guys already met and had this good and great time, and made me feel so like a piece of mud on the bottom of her shoe about it.
Yeah.
When I talked to my daughter. Now, for my daughter, I know that she saw me walking around sad and upset and everything else. And so she very gently said to me when I took her aside, I was like, do you feel like you want to talk to him? And she's like, Mom, we can talk to him if you want to talk to him. It's okay. It's not if you want to talk to him. And something opened up in me like a way back, because I
Yeah.
was so far off the deep end and feeling lost. And but here's my daughter opening the door saying, if you want to talk to him, you can talk to him. And against my better judgment, against what I had learned about dating in Vegas up to that point, which is you don't give somebody a second chance.
Yeah.
I opened the door and I called him, and oh my goodness, he was so quick to answer his phone. It was almost comedy. What? I can't believe, and I'm so sorry. And she doesn't live here anymore. And they went off and they lived their own, it's the whole
Yeah.
thing. And
Right.
and what proceeded from there was something that I could not even put the brakes on, because here I was, and I'm reaching out and I'm giving you a second chance to come back into my life and my situation.
Right.
Oh my goodness, it went from fast forward. So then he came up with this great plan about how he wanted us to move in with him now in a month. And I was like, well, listen, I just re-signed my lease and all this other stuff, and you can't just jump out of a place to live. Like, he's like, I'll pay for it. Whatever it costs, whatever he did, he paid the money to break the lease, and he got on an airplane, him and his daughters, and the two that were living with him, not the three that had gone on with their mom,
Right.
and hopped on an airplane, and they flew out here and was in everybody's face in just a couple weeks. The toxic shock to my family that caused, and I still regret some of that, because he wanted it to happen while the door was still open. None of them were ready for me to leave. And even my dad was like, just leave your daughter here and we'll take care of her, and until you get set up over there, because this is crazy that you just a couple weeks, like you was just broken up with him a month ago. I don't understand. And I was like, but to me, no, my daughter's place is with me. So wherever I go, whatever I'm going through, she's gonna go with me too. And it just went so fast.
Yeah.
Um, then came all the extra information. All the extra information was he had lost his place to live, and had moved in with his deceased ex-wife's parents. I couldn't even make it up, to tell you the truth. So they had a like kind of a duplex situation happening, and they lived on one side, and he had moved into the other side. And now me and my daughter and him and his kids were all moving into the other side. And here was another piece of information. He did not tell his kids that we were moving in. They didn't discover we were moving in until we were on the road across the country. And I mentioned something to one of his daughters, and she went, "Wait, we're not just driving you to, I thought we were just driving you to South Carolina." I was like, "No, I'm moving in with you." Into their grandparents' house.
Oh my God.
In that car ride. And so when I went to him and I was like, "You did not tell your kids that we're moving in?"
Right.
Like, I'm their parent and I know what's best for them. So I tell them what. It was one of the first times I'd heard him say something like that, so definitive. And his foot was down and he just walked away to go do something else, though, as if he hadn't just dropped a whole bomb on me and the kids. And to say that the beginning of our family, it was so volatile. And I don't blame the girls at all, because for me too, you don't just treat them like they're non-citizens and just don't have in it. Because had I known, I might have even reconsidered how we were doing this situation. We didn't have to move in together. But here we were, we're already in, and all my stuff is in the back of the car. And in his considering, he hadn't even considered that everything that I owned was going to be in the back of that car. So here you are, and you brought 2 extra kids who now have extra stuff, and I don't have any room. All I could bring was what would fit in the trunk, like my important papers and pictures. And there were so many red flags, but I was like, okay, let's just get there. Let's just get there. Let's just get there. But then that's when we arrived, the mask was dropping. Yeah. There were explosions over the girls not unloading the dishwasher the right way. And like most of his explosions were happening at the girls. And eventually I had to put my foot down and say, "Hey, you don't talk to kids this way.
Yeah.
If there is an issue, you address it with me, and the 2 adults in the house will take care of the situation. You cannot keep on putting these big explosions out on these," because he thought he was really showing me something when he was exploding at the kids. And I'm like, "No, I don't do that. I don't treat kids that way." And so what I did was I opened the door for him to say, okay, if he has frustration with the kids, he's going to give it to me.
Yeah.
And I had come out of a position where I was doing that psychosocial rehabilitation, because I had just got my bachelor's degree. And so I was doing a lot of in-home care, and just helping people to get back to their regular life after their mental health break, after their hospitalization. And so I had learned early on in my psychology degree, that you do not come and try to psychoanalyze your family, because it's a conflict of interest. But in this situation, it was so toxic. The girls had gone through so much, especially with their mother passing and everything. Like they were all in my heart, and I had skills and knowledge. So I was like, okay, we're going to regulate this situation. We're going to get back on an even footing, and I'm going to let these girls return to being kids. So I had a long uphill battle to fight with him. And he resisted every step of the way. Some days I could really get him to pull it back in. And here's the part. There were good times. There were times that we would go ride out on the boat and have like a family picnic under some nice, palmetto trees, or we would go on long trips to Florida, or we would, ride up to New York and play in the snow. So it's not like it was bad all the time, because if it was bad all the time, nobody would stay. But I found myself more and more living for those moments where he was kind or normal, because more often than not, even a good day could suddenly turn so vicious if one of the kids had something to say that he didn't like, or if I reacted in some certain way that was negative or that he deemed wasn't appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get a full tongue lashing, right? And the things that he would say when he would get angry, there was no limits. There
Yeah.
was no limits to the things he would say. It would be like, you are dumb, you are your whole species, or because he liked to also talk about Black people. He
Mm.
would get a little racist, and he would say some racist thing because he knew that that was the thing that would make me go off. And then he's going off and I'm going off, and the kids are trying their best just to stay out of everybody's way.
Yeah.
The kids, the dog who was deaf and blind. And so I ended up also having to take care of her mental health, getting her medicated, making sure that she didn't snap off and bite one of the kids, because she would have moments where she was like in delirium because of her conditions. And
Right.
it just was a toxic adjustment. And I kept thinking I was going to be the hero. I'm going
Yeah.
to say, I'm going to hold on to this situation. Um, the
Yeah.
things he promised me in the beginning were things like, I'm going to take care of you, which would have been a big change for me because I was so used to taking care of everything all the time. He would say, don't be surprised if I suddenly take care of your car or put gas in your car, or don't be surprised if and he almost made it seem when I first moved in, it doesn't matter if you get a job, I'll take care of everything. And this is all these things that he said, just to end up in a position where I went, no, I pay my bills. I work. I want to make sure I can make my car payment. I want to make sure. And like I insisted that I'm going to go ahead and do this at least 50%, or at least take care of my own bills. You take care of your bills, I take care of my bills. And then it
Right.
turned to, once I gave him that out, no, he never fixed my car. He did pay for vacations, but then
Yeah.
complained the entire time about how I didn't contribute anything to vacations. And I was like, yes, I would contribute to vacations if we took 1 or 2 a year. He wanted to take 8 vacations. It was like every time he got a little stressed, he remembered that the time we had the best time was when we were on vacation. So let's just vacation all the time. I said, yeah, I
Right.
can 1 or 2. I can't help you with 8 vacations. He would do these big extravagant things and then complain about the bills and how much I was paying or how much I wasn't paying.
Right.
Eventually we got ourselves a joint account, and here's dummy me. I'm depositing my money into the joint account, and he still kept
He's
his
not.
own account. And so his name was the primary on the joint account, and he's controlling the money and still telling me, you're not paying enough, you're not doing enough. And because I wasn't contributing to the vacation situation.
Right.
Oh, and eventually, I got so tired of the constant chaos. And because the kids were very jealous of us being in their grandparents' house, which why wouldn't they be? That makes sense. I said, we have to get our own house. We have to get our own house. We have to get out of this place. So we went and we made the moves to go get our own place. And I'll tell you, we almost broke up because he decided that only his name needed to go on the
Mm.
house. And I said, I moved. I left all my family behind because he had me in such a place of isolation. Why would I go into this house situation and not put my name on the house? Like, I don't understand why we're doing it this way. And he was
Right.
like, and he's trying to calm everything down. We're gonna get, when we get married, then I'll get your name on the house. But I have to think about my kids. I have to think about my
What
kids.
about mine? Like, what about my kid?
Yeah, no, that didn't matter. So he
Yeah.
been through enough that he needed to make sure that he's taking care of his kids, because there was still some line between us, some separation where it was me and him. And I kept trying to say, it's not me versus you. This is us together, walking together. And it became so much about him, that even the things that made me happy got pushed off the wayside. I was working and working overtime. Those were acceptable activities. If I tried to go to church, going to church was a whole thing, because what he decided was that everybody needed to go to church if I was going to church. And his teens were not used to going to church, not the way my daughter was. And so it was a fight. He was like, you can't wear that, and you can't wear jeans. And what kind of disrespectful person wears jeans into church? That I don't understand. I said, it's okay. A lot of people wear jeans to church now. It's not like we used to be, but he had such that like traditional view that women should wear skirts and have clean fingernails and not talk too much, and like that was going on. And so it became a fight to get to church. Then when we were leaving church, he didn't say anything in church. He would watch me, praise, and I'm trying to refill my well, and I let the light in so that I could feel, because I wanted to show my kids and his kids too, that when the world gets too heavy, there is a place that you can go and refill the light, because the world will dim your light very easily. And we would get back in the car, and then he would start in on this tirade with, oh, that's your God, that's your God. If your God's a magician, must be able to fix everything. If God can fix everything, then why doesn't he fix the kids sleeping in the streets? Why doesn't he fix the violence that's happening in the world, the bombs that are being dropped on? Like, he would go so, and I would say, listen, there's a pastor there, and we can arrange to meet up and talk with the pastor. And if you have big questions that I can't answer, and you go, why? Well, why can't you answer it, Miss Christian? Why can't you answer what I'm? And he didn't want to have a conversation with me about God. What he wanted to do was attack God in my activities. And after 2 or 3 or 4 times, why go through the struggle? Why go through the fight? And so I started like attending online. Like I was like, I'll just attend online. And if I ever did get to sneak off without him, here's the other fight. I can't believe that you would take our family time and use it to go do this. Now, if he had, say, he worked a lot of side jobs. If he had a side job that needed to go past Saturday, he could definitely do it on Sunday, because that's making money. That's an acceptable. Or if I got overtime, yeah, you can definitely, but don't let me go and take myself off to church and didn't invite everybody. Because that's family time. And that's, even like writing my books and going to, it was years. I didn't get to go to any of my writers' conferences for years. I had stopped writing altogether for about 8 years while we're in this relationship, because it's always felt like next thing come up, this next thing comes up, this next trauma comes up, this next fight comes up, this is happening with the kids, this is, and then getting the house and then moving into the house. So I went through the process of finding the house, getting with the agent, spending the hours and upon hours, which, if you ever bought a house, it takes a lot of time to sift through what you can actually afford.
Right.
And he would every once in a while pop in, but for the most part, it was my job to go look for us a place. And when I found us a place, then it was my fault that there was a hole in the wall. It was my fault that there was faulty plumbing. It was my fault. And I could tell that things were going wrong and that things were not all that great. But here I was, and I had left my family. I had voluntarily put myself in this isolation, and it carries a lot of shame. So what an empath will do in that situation is one of two things. Leave, pack up and leave.
Right.
It's always an option. Or double down. And it's a whole concept. The double down is a very hard time for an empath, especially when they have people who care about them. Because of course I had people who I would confide in with all these crazy situations that were going on and crazy fights and all this. And they would say, well, Why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
I put myself here. I have these kids to take care of, and I love his kids so much. They became my kids. Like I didn't expect them to call me mom. I just was their person, and they were my people. And so I couldn't see myself just hauling out and leaving them. So I doubled down. I made it look like we were having the best time of our lives. I would make
Right.
everybody smile for these pictures. I was the entertainment. I,
Mm.
I put on this whole persona where I was going to entertain for them, and I was going to take care of the dog, and I was going to curate all of these Christmases and birthdays, and we're taking big pictures. We're putting it
Yeah.
on social media. And to my family, it looked like, oh, well, she went over there and came up. They got a house, they got a,
Yeah.
and it came even right down to the wedding day. Even right down to the wedding day, I had to push myself because he made it so stressful. I
Mm.
I'm such an overachiever that I thought I'm going to take on this burden. I'm going to take on this responsibility. It didn't feel like a burden until it actually started happening. I
Right.
was buying all of the cake. I was looking for the venue. And I basically was bringing him a book and going, hey, what do you think? And he would point on something every once in a while, and you go, whatever you think, you know.
Yeah.
I gave him one solid responsibility, and this is in my book for sure. This is in my book for sure. I gave him one solid responsibility. You invite your mother and sister to my bridal shower, because I had most of his other family on Instagram, but I did not have his mother and sister weren't on, and I didn't
Hmm.
have their contact information because I don't know, there was always like a weird vibe with them. They didn't want to give me their number, like they always viewed that maybe I wasn't good enough for their boy. So
Yeah.
anyways, I said, you extend the invitation to them, and I'll tell my dad and my brother that you're going to take them on your men's fishing trip, whatever. They
Right.
all rolled to town. We had so many people in from out of town because I was doing this big Hindi Pentecostal situation. It was like a mashup of the Indian culture meets my Pentecostal family. And I'm talking, we had over 100 people there. It
Yeah.
was madness, and I loved every minute of it, but I was also so stressed. I was so stressed that I dropped 10 pounds in like 3 days.
Mm.
So stressed. And his aunt got in the car. First time I'd seen her in I don't know how long. And she turns to him because we were going to drop her off at her hotel. And she turns to him and goes, why didn't Tisha invite your mom and sister to the bridal shower? What?
Wow.
She was like, yeah, all the rest of us got invitations through Instagram, but your mom and sister were not invited. And I had set up this whole, it was like a tea party where it was going to cost $60 a person. So I had to make sure that all of them were going to be there. They had to RSVP, and I was going to pay for his mom and his sister because, I didn't have their, and he looked back at me and he goes, he goes, I can't believe this effing, like he starts cussing. He's like, I'm not going to put up with another woman in my life who doesn't consider my family. I swear to God, I won't marry you. You're a piece of, and he was just cussing me in the car. And so I
Wow.
said, you were supposed to invite, I wasn't supposed to invite them. You
Yeah.
were supposed to invite them. He's like, that you're making excuses. That sounds stupid. Why would I ever do that? So he wanted to make me look stupid in front of his aunt. This was just a couple days before our wedding. So we dropped off his aunt, and I got into the front seat, and I was so supernova mad
Right.
that I sat there for a little while. We got to driving. I didn't say anything for a little while. And he's like, well, don't you have some smart thing to say? Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I think this is going to be a very smart thing. I said, I think that you should and I should go ahead and have this party because we have a lot of people here in town to have this party and see all these decorations and things we did.
Right.
I think we should sign the papers. What I think is that we don't sign the papers. We have the party. And then in a little bit of time, when people wonder what's happening with us, we'll just post something that say it didn't work out. We got an annulment, and we'll just move on with our lives. We don't have to do this. And he was like, oh yeah, yep. That sounds like the best idea.
So you're like, okay, cool. We got a plan. Like we're doing this.
Much smoother now.
Yeah.
And so to the house, and I didn't talk to him. He didn't talk to me. I went in the office. And then the next day we had the tea party, and it still hurts my feelings a little. Anyways, we had the tea party, and all 10 of his family members did not show up. And I had to pay the whole $600 myself for them, because the tea party was set up in a way that we had to pay for every slot. And so when they didn't show up to pay their part, on top of everything else we were experiencing, and I paid 50% of the wedding. He paid 50%. I had to pay that $600 because they wanted to have a show of solidarity that I was the person who did not invite his mom and his sister.
Oh my gosh. That's
Anyways, so then we get to the wedding, and like I got over it. My mom was there to like comfort me. My mom, my best friend, I love her so much, and just the happiness and joy to have her there. And we'd rented like an Airbnb, like it had a pool and all this. So like just spending time with my family here in the situation was amazing. So like I cooled my heels. We got everything into the hall. We got it all set up, and it was beautiful. Like there were marigolds dripping. There was like elephants trunks up gold on the table. There was like royal emerald colors and purples and oranges and just fiery yellows. And it was lovely. And I had my outfit was jewel encrusted. It weighed about 80 pounds. And I had to have lady actually come and pin me in because I'd lost so much more weight in the stress messing with that whole thing. And then it happened. And then we were there, and we're walking down the aisle, and we're standing up in front of everybody. And I looked at him, and he was so handsome. My heart's broken, but also he's so handsome. He just looks, to me, he looks so good. And we said the words and everything, and he looked happy, and they made speeches and everything. And so then we went to the back where we're supposed to go. My pastor flew in to actually marry us. And we went in the back. We're standing in the hallway, and he goes, your pastor's waiting for us in the ready room. We just got to go sign the papers. I said, what are you talking about? Because I was just standing there waiting for the DJ to call us back in and announce us.
Right. You said, let's get this party started. Like
we already had this talk. And he takes my hand, and he's looking at me so, so earnestly. And he says, we should not have gone to bed angry. And I was wrong, and we shouldn't have, been angry. And I promise from this day forward, we're not going to go to bed angry with each other anymore. And he was so handsome. He smelled so good, and standing there in his kurta. And I'm like, well, all right. Okay. So we went back there, we signed the papers, and now it's official, and now it's a real party. And I felt so relieved. And for about a year, we're living good. We're enjoying our house. We're enjoying our kids. We're settling in, to the married life. And it was what I thought it should be for 1 year. Yeah.
It always seems like the 1 year, like even in my situation, it was 1 year. But we all know that there's always like
beautiful, but the little things started to sneak in again.
Yeah.
For me, I addressed the house thing again. I was like, hey, listen, we have to get my name on the house and everything, right? And he was like, yeah, just get the paperwork, pick up the paperwork. And I was like, no, we're going to go there and we're going to sign the thing. We're going to do this thing. And he was like, well, I have this side job. And then it became that I have this side job. I have that side job. I'm too busy to do this and too busy. And even I went there to the county, to the clerk's office, and I got the paperwork and I brought it to the house, and he was like, oh, perfect. I'll fill it out and then we can pay the whatever. And he sat it down and he went and did his own stuff. And it sat there and it sat there and it sat there. Never did it. And then when we went to do our taxes for the first time, this was the real crack that let all of the anger back in. I was on a system financially where I would use my credit cards. Then at tax time, I would use my taxes to pay all my credit cards off. So I had used my credit cards in the extreme for the wedding, especially when you get a pop $600 surprise anyways.
Yeah.
And so we went and did our taxes together, and he saw how much we were going to get back, and he goes, oh, this is going to be an excellent vacation. And he started making plans and doing all this, that. And I was like, no, that's not how I use my taxes. I use my taxes to pay off my credit card. And so then he goes, you pay off your credit card. Well, how much credit card do you have? See, that's your problem. You use those credit cards and you have no idea how to pay for things. And I said, well, that's how I paid for the wedding. You thought I had $5,000 just laying around? Well, I did. I came up with that money, Mr. King of the side jobs. I'm not going to, well, let's not go there because I don't want to bust him up tax wise.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. And I was like, so yeah, easy for you who's got cash flowing through your hands to come up with $5,000. But for me, it took me putting a lot of that stuff on my card, and I'll pay it right now with my taxes. That's what I do. And he goes, well, we're still going to book a trip. Like, let's do let's do a smaller trip. Let's just do like a 4-day instead of doing like a week long. And I was like, okay, just to like appease him, because he'd been screaming at me for I don't know how long about me using my credit cards and how I was financially irresponsible and they do that. Financial abuse is also a part of it, making sure that you understand that without them, you'd be worthless. You'd be nothing. You'd have nothing. And then also keeping their hands on your purse strings helps to keep you in a position where you couldn't walk away if you wanted to. So
Right.
I ended up using some of my taxes to pay for this and most of our taxes to pay for this big lobster dive he wanted to go on in the Florida Keys. And I'm like, but now I have to carry this debt. And I never fully recovered for that whole next 5 years. I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and the interest is rising, and I still have to pay my bills. I still have to, and we had got hooked into, when we moved into the house, a 50-50 situation where I was paying 50% of the bills. He was paying 50% of the bills, and I was doing 100% of the housework. And his excuse was, well, you do the housework inside and I'll do the yard work outside. But I was also doing yard work outside. I was also growing a garden. I was also helping to keep the flower beds pruned and weeded. And so like every waking moment was like consumed with taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, being the best host I could, putting on this big glamorous life.
Yeah.
And I wasn't enjoying any of it. I was drowning. Other than being with my kids,
Yeah.
I was pretty much alone, isolated. If I tried to I couldn't even go spend time with my friends because he expected to go be with my friends too. He could go off and have a big old fishing trip himself, but I could not go off and just enjoy my time being with my friends, because he was like, well, you can't invite me. You must not love me. The narcissist will make you believe that spending any time outside of doing what they want you to do means that you're disloyal, means that you're untrustworthy, and it gives them this foothold to say that you are this terrible person. So, anyways, we're a couple years into this situation, and I could go on and on about the different examples of what was going on. Uh, I for his 50th birthday, because that's a big birthday,
Yeah.
did put on the whole thing. I did a surprise party at a Brazilian steakhouse, and then I whisked him off for the weekend to Florida so his family could be a part of it, since he's complaining about how his family wasn't a part of it. Because it was a surprise, because he didn't plan it, and because I paid for it, he had to ruin it. He had to crash it. So to him, it was, well, I should be working this weekend, and nobody told me this. And I was like, well, I already talked to the guys. They are going to go ahead and fill in for you while you're gone out of town. They know
Right.
what's going on. And oh, you can't just go and do stuff like that. Why would you
Oh
talk
my
to my?
gosh.
Yeah, it was. He had such an attitude all the way down there, and I
Hmm.
paid for him and the kids and the kid, one of them's boyfriend, and all these things that I'm paying for, and it meant nothing. It was garbage in his mouth because and then one of the guys broke a window in his truck, and that just was a reason to
That was
blow
your fault too, right? Like that was your fault too.
off
Yeah.
home. All I could hear was it was my fault that he should have been there, and he can't understand why. And it didn't matter how much I put out, how much I did. And so my birthday was coming up, and it was my 40th birthday.
Another
And
milestone. Right.
I wanted to have a little hotel party, not like the big 50, but I wanted to have a little hotel party, something to. And so I wanted him to be there as my host, as my husband. We
Right.
planned the thing. I talked to my friends. I was so excited. It was my first time really celebrating myself for my birthday, because I missed being myself. And he's all in and saying all these different things, and then he just casually drops a couple days before, like we're finalizing all the hotel plans, and everybody's ready to pay for their room and stuff. And he goes, "Well, I forgot that I had paid for a fishing trip for me and my friend to go fishing." And I thought I said, "Hey, you got to be playing me, right?" I thought, you kidding. And I laughed
Right.
it, laughed and stuff. And he's laughing, and he was like, "Yeah, I totally forgot. So I'm just going to give you some money, and you can hang out with your friends at the hotel. Because, like, what do you need me there for? Anyways, you're just going to be drinking and all this other stuff, and you'll be at the hotel and stuff." And I had already planned this in advance. And I said, "All right, so you're not playing with me right now?
Right. Like
You
this isn't part of the surprise.
you're being very serious right now." And he
Yeah.
said, "Yes." And so I got on the phone. I messaged all my friends and said, "It's canceled." Because what does that look like? I'm here and I'm hosting a party for myself for my birthday, and everybody's there who's a couple with their
Now
friends.
they have questions.
I'm
Yeah.
by myself on my birthday. And so I canceled with everybody.
Yeah.
And he still gave me money, because in his mind that equated to making it okay. And he actually left. He actually
Mm.
left and went on a fishing trip on my birthday. And so I took the money and I went quietly, and I bought myself breakfast and went crazy in the Cracker Barrel. Because let me tell you, give me some money in my hand, I would go in the Cracker Barrel and just lose it. So
There's
I
so much to do, so much to
so much,
try. Yeah.
and but I did my best to try to make myself feel some kind of happiness, but that's what it kept coming back to. I'm making
Right.
myself feel happy. I'm making the kids feel happy. I'm making the dog feel happy. I'm making him feel happy, and I was not making myself feel happy. It wasn't, there was no way out. It felt like we kept going through this cycle where I would fight with him and then we would make up, and I would fight with him and then he would buy something else. And there
Yeah.
was, there was very little time there towards the end where I really truly felt seen. I became a thing, like the entertainment person, like someone that people I made other people feel comfortable, while not being comfortable at all myself. And I could see it in my daughter too. She was starting to hide out in her room, and she was starting to really just feel like we were part of the furniture. We lived there, but were we really part of anything or part of the family? And then
Yeah.
the situation with the dog got worse. The situation with the dog got worse, that she was so bad. She was snapping at him. I had to rescue him from her one time. The dog was
Wow.
snapping at the kids. And then finally, one time he and I were out of town, and I get the phone call, and she's crying and she's screaming. And I was like, what's happening? He, she bit me. The dog bit me. The dog had got her on the ground and took a good bite out of her leg. And so
Mm.
I wanted to go running straight home. And he looked at me, and the first thing he said when I told him what happened, that, we had to try to get home as quick as we could. He looked at me and he says, "So now you're going to leave me?" Hmm.
Whew.
That
Honey,
your
this,
reaction
this,
to me telling you that my daughter just got bit by our dog. I don't
right.
understand what's happening. So we got there and we got home, and he loved that dog. I'll say this much: if anybody loved that dog, he did have so much love for that dog, and he had put so much effort into trying to keep her alive because she had a lot of health issues. And I
Hmm.
also put, and it's not like I did not also love her. I just didn't
Yeah.
love her more than my kids.
Right.
And we hauled out, like I was trying to be nice and do this, like shuffle her between the shed and the backyard to try to at least keep her alive for a little while. Because once you get a dog bite, you have to report it and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
She snapped at me like she bit me, and I said, "No, you know what? That's enough." So I took myself and my daughter, and we went and lived in our friend's house, and it took him 2 weeks to
Mhm.
make a decision about putting the dog down. It took him 2 weeks of us living somewhere else for him to make that decision, because he loved her. He valued her. He viewed her as a valuable member of the family, and he just thought eventually we would come back. And I told him, I said, "Hey, I'll move in here. This
Yeah.
will this will be my new apartment. This will be my new place." And so he ended up having to put the dog down. But of course, him putting the dog down was my fault.
Yeah.
It all came back to his life would have been so much better. He would have been living, but while simultaneously love bombing me and smothering me and wanting to hold me so tight, and I couldn't be anybody else's anything. He didn't want other people looking at me. If someone else
Yeah.
saw me as a woman at all, first, it was my fault. And second, he's highly jealous. And third, I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. Like he would give so many mixed signals and mixed emotion. It
Yeah.
took us getting into a bad car accident for me to wake up. One thing that happened, I was tired. I'd been running because my daughter had started theater.
Hmm.
I was working downtown. So the drive was an hour there, the drive was an hour back, spent 30 minutes waiting for my daughter. Then we're driving through traffic, and I still had to make dinner when I got home. And I was tired because my husband was a snorer who did not like to wear a sleep mask, which, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a partner who snores so hard that they rattle the bed and keep you awake and tries to tell you that their breathing machine bothers them too much to sleep, please leave, because sleep is such a basic need. It's a basic thing that you, like, I'm not saying leave your significant, but like sleep in another room or something, because that's an excuse. They're making an excuse to keep you dysregulated. So I'm running around, I have no sleep, I'm taking my kids places, I'm the doctor, I'm the chauffeur, and I didn't feel like doing it this particular night. So I took her to Chick-fil-A, and we're driving out of the Chick-fil-A, and bam, this Ford, or no, sorry, it was a Dodge Ram truck, smashed directly into my driver's side door and flipped us until we were in oncoming traffic. Like, it was an accident that was a all airbags deployed kind, total car kind of accident. And it was really bad. And so they had to cut me out and all this other stuff. And she and I, and it was just me and my daughter. So we went. I couldn't get a hold of him for hours. And he finally did make it over there. But what ended up happening was they told me that, luckily, praise God, so glad to be alive, so glad that he put his hand on me. I'll say that much because it could have been much worse. Didn't get cut, didn't get any of that, but got a lot of tissue trauma. And my back, which was already bad with the sacroiliitis, now has shifted and my hips rocked into each other and it's like bone touching bone. Yeah. So I'm now in a chronic pain situation where we're having to do, pain management. I'm going to a spine doctor. And all of this is happening, and I'm having to get back injections, and he's chasing me about making sure the house is clean. He's chasing me about the cookouts that we're having, that, we were having an oyster roast. Do I think that we're going to be able to host? And I just not too long ago got hit by a big old truck and have to go to a spine specialist. You remember that part, right? But if my back went out at inconvenient times for him, again, this is my fault. And so I couldn't even escape if I wanted to when I was down because my back was out from the snoring. I was laying there 2 a.m., 3 a.m. crying, shedding my soul. I didn't know what to do. I really was in a bad situation. And the spine specialist sent me to get injections in my hips and in my back. When I got the injections in my hip and my back, it's a steroid. Right. Negative reaction that I had never foreseen coming. He took me to get the injections and then he left to go with his friend fishing or whatever. He left me alone in the house. He went for a couple weeks. I started, they had gone to this deep sea fishing thing. Then they had this bungalow and all this other stuff. And people would ask me all the time, you think he's sleeping with something? I don't care. I honestly, by that point,
You're like, whatever. I hope so. You're like, I hope so.
Please, let's introduce another. But then I felt bad for the woman. Like, I don't want to another woman into this situation who thinks she's getting like a prime deal or whatever.
Listen, the same way you had to figure out that your knight in shining armor was made of aluminum foil, let her figure it out too. Like,
I know that's right. And so I was like, she'll figure it out eventually. And so I started to have hallucinations. The injections, I'm laying there in bed, I'm trying to recover, and I look over and I see a little demon just hanging on the side of the bed. What? Turn on all the lights, pray over the house, even put some salt over my shoulder like my grandma taught me back.
100%.
No demon. No, I rebuke the devil in the name of Jesus. And I know Jesus well enough to say, yes, I know you give us the authority over all of it. And I'm listening. My daughter is so used to me by, I walked in, put the holy oil. She's like, all right, I'm going back to sleep. And I was like, okay. So I tried to settle down, calm down. The second I turned the light off, there's the demon again. It was, so I had to turn all the lights on and sleep like that. And I ended up going to the doctor and I was like, listen, I don't know what's happening because I don't know if I'm going crazy or what. And I explained to her what was happening. And she was like, well, maybe you need to go see someone. And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't want to see, I don't want medication or any of that stuff. Because she suggested sleep medication that would help me sleep. And I was like, I couldn't imagine if I couldn't wake up from this to turn on the lights. Like, I'm not going to go through more extended of this.
Right.
So, I said, I will see a counselor. And what it all boiled down to was I had a negative reaction that was causing me to see the hallucinations because when I read up on some of the side effects. Weight gain and hallucinations can happen on steroids, which I suppose a lot of people don't really, it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happened to me. But when I went into the counseling, I was expecting that I was going to have to deal with some of the trauma that I suppressed from my early marriage or from my childhood or something like that. But when I got to the counseling and I started to express some of the things that were happening with my husband, he looked at me and he was like, well, first of all, I do think you have PTSD from some of the stuff that you've been through in the past. But I also think you're experiencing more trauma right now. He's like, the basic need to sleep. If someone is dysregulating your sleep, everybody deserves sleep. 7 to 8 hours of sleep, everybody needs that just to be a normal functioning human. He's like, you're out here, no sleep, doing everything for everyone else, being a superhero, being a super mom, cleaning up after them. And then you suppress trauma and you keep suppressing everything. Like, he's like, you're afraid to even talk to me. And I realized it was true. I had to face what he was saying to me. He said, you're afraid to even talk to me about what your husband is doing to you. And he's like, I want you to understand, he is doing this to you, but this is a safe place for you to be able to say those things. It was so freeing to be able to stop making excuses for him, because I, for years, had been making excuse after excuse for his bad behavior. And when I could say the words of what was happening without adding the back end but, I would say, he did this, and this, but he tried to make up for it by doing this, and he did this, but, and so by taking the but out, I removed the good times also. I removed the camouflage. I removed the good photos that I had taken in the good time. And I got it back to formula to say, this happened on this day and this happened on this day. Because so often we use the good times as like kind of an amnesia. To help us forget and to help us have something to look forward to hope, that we just overlook and we forget. I had gotten into such a mental health situation behind this guy that I had considered suicide. I was even thinking about taking myself out of the equation because it kept seeming like he's okay, the kids are okay, I'm the problem. I'm the one who's making this a worse situation in my poor financial situations. And eventually, like those mantras that he was putting in my head, the things that we see, well, I should have known what kind of wife I was getting before I married you, like the things that he would say over and over again. And so I took the counseling very serious. And when I started to say no became like my new superpower word. I was like, when I started, he would say, you want to come with me on this side job? No. You want to come with me out here fishing? Because the boat would bounce me and my back would be, I said, nope. Do you want to help me with this garden project? No. Anything that wasn't taking care of myself or taking care of my kids, I wasn't in. You want to go on vacation? No. Go on. And the more I started to say no, the more he started to go, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you. There is a, and I'm like, yes, there is something very wrong with me. And I think that I need to go to counseling together. I don't go to counseling. I don't live that counseling life. You can do your own thing. What kind of things is that counselor saying to you? That counseling is, you're getting all these ideas from that counseling, right? And so then he would start to try to attack my counseling sessions. He would want to know everything we talked about in counseling. And I said, no.
It doesn't work that way, sir. Like, I invited you in, but you don't want to be here, so it doesn't work that way.
I said, we could set up some group sessions if you want, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm going through and I said, I think that we're going to start sleeping in separate rooms because I can't handle your snoring situation. Well, I'm not going to do like at first. He did not want me to set that boundary. I had to learn what boundaries were, how to set them, and how to enforce them. And I said, if you're not willing, because he had a sleep mask, but he wouldn't wear it because he said it made him too uncomfortable to sleep. I said, so if you're not going to wear your sleep mask, or at least make the effort to go and switch it out, if it's the mask that's the problem, they have different kinds of masks.
Right.
No, he said, no, I'm not paying for another mask. I said, well, I'm just going to be sleeping in the office then. And so I started sleeping in the office separate, my room versus his room. And the difference having 8 hours of solid, uninterrupted sleep started to make in me, it was like waking up from some slumber I had been in.
Yeah.
And more, the things that he was doing or saying, and because like after we'd had the dog put down and I had to end up, because before I would have to stay in the room with the dog when we were hosting because otherwise she would eat the door. But then we came this time afterwards where he expected me to just be the hostess with the mostest and serve everybody drinks. And I said, after that, I'm not entertainment. I'm not going to be anybody's entertainment anymore. And so he would have all these people over and he would say all these things and I'd say nothing. And I would sit there and actually eat a meal. I wouldn't run after anybody. I wasn't. And so he would do it. And then he would look at me so upset and flustered and you're so lazy. I can't. And so that started those types of fights where he would call me lazy. He would say, I don't clean the house. He would say, and maybe because genuinely at that point, my back was hurting so bad. And I was in such a zone where I needed to take care of myself for a little while.
Right.
I'm not constantly chasing after you anymore because after he would work his side jobs, he refused to take his shoes off at the door. He would walk mud all through and I would have to kind of like chase after to clean the floors and keep this spotless appearance of life that we had going on. And when my back started going out, I paid for a maid. I used my own money to pay for a maid to come in weekly. The woosah, the way I felt, the weight lifted to have someone actually help me with the housework. And again, it up his narrative. You're lazy. If you are here all the time and I can't understand, you have to actually leave the house for someone else to clean your house and they don't need to see our dirty, dirt and I said, I don't care what you have to say because it helps me. And I'm paying out of my own money.
Right. Like it's not costing you anything and it's relieving some of the burden for me.
So why are you so upset that someone is coming in to help me? Because a narcissist knows they have to keep you confused. They have to keep control. They have to keep you exhausted. They have to keep you at the end of your nervous system so you don't start to think about things like leaving them. And so as I was waking up more and more to myself, I was saying back to him things that he was saying to me, and he was getting more and more angry.
Yeah.
And it came down to one big fight we had on Thanksgiving. And this is, after so many years of putting up with being talked down to, being belittled, being the butt of the joke, being the nice guy, everybody's entertainment, just making myself small. In this one instance, everything popped off because one thing I don't play about is my kid. I do not play about her. And he knew that. He never pushed this button before because I think that he knew. With his kids, we had a long way to go for me to get him in a position where he realized he didn't need to be yelling and screaming at them, but he still, had his moments where he was like, this is what a father does and you have to let me. But I would never allow that kind of thing with my kid because she has a dad and her dad lived there in that same city. And no, you're not going to go off on her like that. But he walked in. My back had actually gone out to the point where I was bedridden. I had cooked all Thanksgiving dinner, but we took it over to the kids' grandparents' house. And so the mess was left at our house, but we went over there to eat. While we were there, back went out. I had to have help to the car. I had to have help to the bed. And so he'd gone to work the next day. And I was laid up trying to get myself back together so I could go to work the next day. And my daughter comes in. She says, "Mom, can you do my hair?" I said, "Yes, I can do your hair, baby." Because I always liked her to feel confident going to school or whatever. So I pulled out, I had her get me the hot iron and everything. And I was flat ironing her hair. We were halfway through when he walks in. And I could hear a tone. When you live with someone where you're walking around on eggshells all the time, you can kind of gauge how they're feeling by how they walk into the door. And so he was a bit of a hoarder, and I had to control the hoard. He always was bringing in random things. Like if somebody was giving away something, he was taking it. If somebody had something on the trash, he was taking it. And so he stopped by this school giveaway and picked up all of these extra cartons of milk and all this other random stuff. And he's holding it in, but he's slamming it on the table. He's slamming it on the table. And I'm like, must have been a bad day. There's something going on there. He's slamming it on the table, and then he hear his boots hit the ground loud. So he's kicked his boots off and they've landed somewhere, which I know I'm going to clean the floor later. And then he goes in and he's banging the dishwasher and all this other stuff. And he starts cussing. "What the F is going on in this house? I don't understand why this is like this." Okay. And he says, "Your lazy daughter, why can't she wash these dishes like she's supposed to? I don't understand what's going on. Why I have to come home and wash these effing dishes and all this?" And I'm like, okay. And she froze because she's like, "Oh, I did something wrong." I said, "Don't worry about it, honey. Don't worry about it. You go ahead." And because not her job to load the dishwasher. She unloads it. I load it. I just was not in a good place. And so there was, dishes from Thanksgiving, but whatever. I said, "Just go to the room, shut the door. Let me go talk to him." And so I waddled out there trying to get my back situation together. Waddled out there and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's looking at me. He's like, "Who's supposed to do these effing dishes? Why should I come home and have to clean up this stupid," he's cussing, "this clean up this stupid house? I can't understand why I'm trying to keep it clean." But he was very much screaming and in my face. And he had guests over, but they weren't home at that moment. They were gone visiting their friends and family. And so I was like, "Listen, that is my responsibility. And I didn't get a chance to load them. So you're home. Go ahead and load them. It's not going to kill you to use your two hands to help me out to load the dishwasher. I don't understand how you're raising your daughter that she can't come and help do these." I said, "No." I said, "Okay, first of all, you need to stop talking to me like that, because you don't talk to me like that, especially not in front of my daughter. She is right in that room listening right now. And it's not her responsibility to clean up after you and your guests. She does way more in this house to help me than you do to." Oh, he hated to hear that. And so he goes, "Oh, yeah? Oh, she does? Or she helps so much?" And he slams the thing, slamming this. He goes over to like we had a hanging basket that had the vegetables and things in it.
Yeah.
I had grabbed an onion the day before to be able to cut up, making food. And one of the onion peels had fell out onto the floor. And he goes, "Look at this. This been sitting here for 2 days."
Why you didn't pick it up? Then why you didn't pick it up, sir? Right.
"You mean since yesterday when I cooked the whole Thanksgiving dinner? That's when you're talking about that one little piece of onion fell under the..." "Well, how come it's sitting here for 2 days and nobody can get it? Nobody can pick it up?" I said, "Listen, that one little spot is where you want, that's the hill you're going to die on, over this one little onion peel out of the entire floor that is clean. That's the thing that he's, oh, this entire floor is clean." And so he goes And he starts heading down the hall. He said, come here, I want to show you something else. He's flipping on lights. And he's like, oh, look at this lazy daughter of yours. And he goes into the bathroom because the guests were staying near that bathroom and they would use that bathroom. It happens to be her bathroom, which she mostly cleaned, but I had the main responsibility for. He went and he pointed to a spot behind the toilet. Not like the whole toilet was, not like the counters or anywhere else in the whole bathroom was dirty. He points to his spot behind the toilet and he goes, look at this. Look at this nasty, dirty thing that nobody could bother to clean. I said, well, listen, it bothered you enough for you to come drag me down this hallway to be able to point out one spot behind the toilet. Why didn't you clean it? Why didn't you clean it? I shouldn't have to do anything. I pay all the bills in here and I don't understand why you think, what if I took a picture of this and posted it on social media? I said, hope you do. I hope you post it on social media so people can tell you how crazy and ridiculous you are. He said, oh, I'm crazy. I said, yeah, you're crazy. And we had a parrot. The parrot is screaming at the top of his lungs. I'm screaming at him and he's screaming at me. He's like, this place is the disgrace. You and your daughter are lazy. You don't do it. I said, oh, I'm lazy. And I walked into the living room because now I'm lit. Don't you talk about my daughter like that, and don't you make her feel that way, especially she's sitting in there and she can hear you. Like you are trying to erode her mental health confidence. And I worked so hard to help her build that confidence.
Right.
You want to see lazy? And listen, my back pain was forgotten. My superhero was ignited. And I went to the table and I'm grabbing these boxes and I'm taking them out. Open the back door and I'm throwing them out the back. I got the boxes and I'm throwing them out the back. I said, look at this crazy. And nobody wants to have any of this. Who wants these stupid cartons of milk and these little orange? And I'm throwing it. He's like, see, other husbands, women would die for a husband who would bring them this. I said, bring them this stupid leftover school stuff. Nobody wants this shit like this. And I'm throwing it out and throwing it. And he's like, you're a lazy piece of, and I looked at him and I said, F you. And I don't cuss. I don't cuss people like that. Like I used to cuss like a sailor, especially living with him. Because like, as you pointed out earlier, it's near impossible to live with a narcissist and not cuss.
Exactly. You got to cuss a little. That's your sanity. Like I always tell people, sometimes you have to speak to them demons in a language that they understand.
But I looked directly at him in his eye, and I meant it in a way that I never meant anybody before. And I don't cuss people. Like I will cuss in general, but to look you directly in your eye and curse you. And I said, F you, F you. He's like, F me. I was like, yes. And he was so shocked because I am not the type of person that I am going to say something like that to somebody, especially someone I love.
Yeah.
Felt like that line between love and hate had blurred so much that in that moment, and he's standing there with the foamy hands from washing the dishes, and I just got done throwing all this, like I'm looking at him and he's looking at me, and I could have committed violence against him in that moment.
Yeah.
And for me, that is so against everything that I've ever been. I am a person who I love people.
Yeah.
And I loved him. I loved him so big in my heart that for me to be standing there considering violence against you, I say, I have to do something different. I have to do something different with my life. And his kids were all grown up, had all moved out of the house. And so only my daughter was left. And I saw a long road of him attacking my daughter the way he used to his kids. I saw a long road of me reacting and becoming violent with him. All I could see was cops and sirens, and I had to shut it off.
Yeah.
I had to shut it off. And it didn't matter how much I loved him. or how much I wanted to work on that situation, there comes a point where you have to realize if they are not willing to do the work, because I had spent years running after him, I had spent years uh, wanting him to experience growth. I wanted him to have a positive mental health situation. I wanted him to address the anger and fears and doubts and frustrations. I wanted him to face the demons, because when you have an ex-wife who died, or two ex-wives, or the things that he had gone through, the
Yeah.
people who lost, and he just would swipe it under the rug. Even the thing with the dog, he couldn't even do anything other than have that angry emotion. All you ever saw was extreme love or extreme hate. There was no balance, there was no peace.
Yeah. He had a lot of unhealed issues. It sounds
And
like, and he projected them to you.
right. And
Yeah.
because for a narcissist, the way that they can release their emotional valve, they have so much going on inside of them that they turn to you, and if they can get an emotional reaction out of you, especially if it's negativity, then they will feel like they've released their own valve a little bit. If you ever notice when you're in an argument with a narcissist, the more frustrated and angry you get, the calmer they seem to get. And so
Right.
I had to realize that there wasn't going to be a way that I could heal him. That was the releasing thing for me. It's like as much effort and time in 11 years, if you haven't been able to be healed by my presence in your life, because the empath thinks that they can heal. We're not God, but sometimes we forget that and try to be the healing. But if after 11 years it's not working, it's a cycle and it keeps going. So I had to shut off the valve. I had come to a point where I'd given all the energy that I could possibly give to him. And
Right.
now I needed some for myself. I needed some for myself and for my daughter. It was time
Mm.
for us to figure out something else. And I thought about my family. And even though it would feel like shame, even though it would feel like failure, I had to face that, because failure was far better than me ending up in jail or CPS taking my kid or any of that stuff, because that is not me. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people think the first step is always, I'm just going to run on out of here. I'm just going to move. Which, if you are in a physically violent situation, yes, please do. Please get out as quickly as you can. But we hadn't become physically violent with each other yet. And I needed to make a plan. I needed to think smart. I needed to start separating my money. I needed to save. I needed to make sure my daughter wasn't ripped out of school right in the middle of wait till this. So I gave myself a timeline and certain objectives for me to be able to get from here to there. And that's kind of what my book addresses as well. It's not always there have to be practical steps for you to be able to walk out of a situation like this. Because again, the platitudes, yes, they give you courage, yes, but I needed someone to help me. What do I do next? What can I do in this situation? And so while Shattered Illusions, it tells the story of what happened to me, and it also gives you some of the ideas about these narcissistic principles and what people go through and why you go through it. It's like the psychology behind it.
Right.
Sparkle, Manifest, Grow, the Glow Guide, has real actual steps. What am I going to do to get out of this? You've got to save. You've got to learn how to stand on your no. I had to shut him out. Even while we're in this space, he could have said anything to me. I
Mhm.
got to such a point where he could say anything. As long as you're just saying it, I would just nod, agree.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you have to say to me anymore, because at that point, I'd already made up my mind. There's nothing you could say. Well, outside of, I was still open to the idea of counseling, but anytime I brought that up, no, I don't live that kind of life. So if you've done
Yeah.
everything you can do, if you have put in the work, if you have started going to counseling, if you're talking to people, you're reaching out to people, you've got to find your tribe. You've got to start to get your own voice back. You've got to give yourself drive and direction. And it all sounds like, ooh, I'm just making stuff up. And it might feel that way in the beginning. But with positive affirmations, with unwavering belief in yourself, you will start to build a bridge from where you are to where you want to go. I really had to start to imagine that I could have a different life than the one that I was building with him. And yes, it hurt. And yes, it broke my heart because I had imagined such a good future with him. I really wanted those things with him, but if they're not willing to go with you, my darling, you have to go for yourself. You have to really learn. And I'll say this much. Those are things I should have learned in my single time that now this time around in my single time I'm really learning that
Mhm.
that you have to be able to do the work to love and trust yourself, because you're less likely to get that far into this if someone is hurting you, if someone is making you feel small, if someone is berating you, if someone is constantly tearing you down, but you love yourself, you will look at that person like,
Yeah.
this is not for me. But if you go into it and you are still broken and you don't know how to pay your bills and you don't know how to, then you're more likely to not only enter into that situation, get stuck into that situation, but also stay longer than you should in that situation. The longer it takes you to realize that you have to experience your own healing, the longer you're going to remain broken. And they love the broken version of you because the broken version of you is very malleable. You are very much susceptible to what they have to say. But I got to a point where he could have said anything. He could have said the sky is purple, and yes, you're exactly right. Ooh, and he
Mhm.
would get so mad. He would get so mad because he wanted so bad to release his vows that way. And
Mhm.
then he started to try to love bomb me. And he paid for another vacation, and he thought I was going to go on this vacation with him and it was going to fix everything. And then I said, no, I'm not going. What? You selfish.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, you're right. I
Yeah.
mean, you're exactly right. You have to be okay with becoming the villain. You have to understand. And so then I also understood I could not tell him I was leaving, because as bad as our fights were up to that point, if I told him I was leaving, there would be violence, because he was the type of person, he always said that. Like he one time he said out of his mouth that if his ex was still alive, he'd shoot her. They had such a violent breakup, like to where he's throwing all of his stuff's getting thrown out the window. They're fighting each other in court. It was such a sticky situation, and so I could at least recall that enough to see that if I was to go to his face and tell him I was leaving, we were going to have to call the cops.
Mm.
So after I got myself prepared, I packed him a lunch. He got up for work. I gave him a kiss. He went off to work. I packed the car, and me and my daughter left. We left and we drove away. And as we were driving away, it was like these pieces, these broken pieces were falling off of me, and
Yeah.
just piece by piece, I could feel my calm, my nerves, my peace. Like with the silence came an understanding that I had just been through a very traumatic situation. I didn't even realize how loud
Mhm.
everything had gotten, how chaotic. Because when I went through my counseling, I was thinking, oh, I'm doing much better. But it
Yeah.
wasn't until the day I left, because I thought I was going to be sad. I thought there was going to be some sadness in this, but I took a deep breath and I embraced my future. And I made sure to write this book. I wrote this book while I was on the road traveling across the country
Mhm.
because I needed to remember. I needed to remember, and it's devoid of most of the good times. It is a very big reflection on most of the bad times
Right.
because I needed to remember why it was time for me to go. And so, and as I was reading it back, I read it back a couple times. I was like, you know what? Maybe this could also be a roadmap for someone else,
Yeah.
someone else who is stuck in it, someone else who is still in the middle of it, someone who has no idea where to start, someone who's hiding or pretending. Because a lot of people are suffering in silence. They are posting these positive pictures. They
Mm.
are posting these grand vacations, all the while they're being abused, financially abused. It could be 1 minute in the picture, you're taking a picture, you're so happy. Like that was one of our anniversary pictures. We took this picture, we were on the beach and we both looked like we were shining. And within 15 minutes after taking that picture, he was telling me I was stupid and embarrassment.
Mm.
He couldn't believe that I would be in here dressed this way, doing this. And I cried. And, then he wanted, like, he was mad that I was upset. So many people are experiencing the same exact thing. And if I can help anyone, if I can boost anyone up, if I can show them that you can go through this and endure the shame and endure the pain of leaving them and come out okay, that would make the whole thing worth it. If even one or two people can hear what I have to say and it helps them get in a better life or a better situation, then I'll do it. I'll do it every day of the week.
Yeah. And that's the kind of encouragement that, you know, real talk like changes lives. And, I feel like we need to be able to do more of that. And I truly love, you know, the process of this journey for you in a sense that, we go from shattered illusions where it's dark, it's real, and it was a time in your life where things were just completely dark for you,
Yeah.
even though you didn't maybe realize it in the moment. Once you got out, you were able to look back and see how dark things were. And then so we go from shattered illusions to your upcoming book, Sparkle, Manifest, Grow, or Grow.
Yes, grow.
Grow.
Spark
Yeah.
Manifest Grow, the Glow Guide.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I know that book drops on October the 3rd. And for the thing that people have to understand is that, finding your sparkle isn't just about feeling good, right? It's
Right.
it's about reconnecting with yourself. And so I love the fact that you were so vulnerable to share the deepest, darkest moments for you. And then to go into now, you're reconnecting with yourself, you're honoring your worth, and remembering that there is joy and light, and these things are
Yeah.
non-negotiable because now you've learned how to set these boundaries. And you know um oftentimes, rediscovery of self-love comes with learning how to set new strong boundaries. And so again, I really applaud you, and I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for honestly healing out loud, because not everyone is willing to do that. I'm grateful for anyone to get their healing by any means necessary, but when we show up and we heal out loud and we use the dark parts of our lives to help other people heal, or to pull other people out, I think that there's something that's just so, I don't know, there's something that's so amazing in that. It's like I always tell people, you're getting a VIP seat in heaven, girl. Okay, like we know you headed there, but like you're gonna be in VIP. Okay, because yeah,
It
now
is a process. And I'll tell you, since I have walked straight back into my relationship with God in such a way that I will never, ever, ever go anywhere again. It's been years in the making.
mhm,
And from that first hurt, when I walked away from him that first time, I never even realized how dark it was or how lost I was. And now in this season where I everything. I'm giving myself every opportunity to be everything God has called me to be. It's been so spectacular. It's been so amazing, the doors that open and the people who I get to talk to. And really, it blesses my life to see other people healed. Like that makes me more emotional than anything else. And not because I'm doing anything, but because God is doing it through me, because God saved me out of my situation. Lord knows I could have been out there and
Right.
just gone, because it was that bad. It had gotten so bad that I could have left this earth without making up with my Father.
Mhm.
And now that I have, and now that, oh my goodness, the way it feels to be on this healing journey, the way it feels to really love myself, I'm loving myself in a way that I never allowed myself to love myself my whole life. Since I was little, it was like I had to be so pleasing to everyone while I was hurting, while I was alone, while I was afraid, while I was and she buried herself in this tough persona, in this entertaining and spark and nice person, and she buried herself, that now when I get to talk to her, I can be so gentle with her. I can love her in a way that I have never allowed myself to love her. She feels so safe that she is here with me, and she is making me soft. She is making me love myself. She is making me feel like the strongest version of myself, because I know that I would be the type of person who would have stood up for her. She would have never had to go through those things that she went through if I was there with her. And she's proud of me, and I'm proud of her,
Yeah.
because you have to realize this too. The person that you were, the person that you had to become, is why you survived. She had no way to know that we would be okay one day, and she stuck around anyways. She powered through anyways. She went through some traumatic things to make sure that I could be here. So I don't hate her. I've learned how to heal in love. I've learned how to heal with grace, giving her the grace, because if people really knew some of the things that we went through, they would be amazed that I'm standing here. And I can only say it's through the grace of God. I can only say it's through the grace of God. But
Yeah.
I'm so happy she didn't give up. I'm so happy that
Yes.
we are here and that we're okay now. And I try to send positive vibes back to,
Yeah.
yes, we're okay now. Yes, we take care of ourselves now. Yes, we have our own place now. Yes,
Yeah.
our hair looks beautiful today. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's just an amazing, evolution or transformation when we find our light again,
yeah,
because you never really lost it. You just needed to find it again.
yeah,
Um, and for anybody who's listening right now who feels, called to dive deeper into your work, whether it's through, any form of like coaching, your books, your merch, or just connecting with your energy.
yes.
Because
And
again, I
please follow
this
me on
story.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, because I do daily inspiration. But
Yes.
also on my website, I have available life coaching sessions. I all the books are on my website as well. I have books, I have T-shirts, I have journals, I have merchandise. I am so available. And also with my life coaching comes a free ebook where you are able to, take notes and go back, and if you need to use it as a guide. I also once you go through the initial life coaching, offer month-long boot camps. Because I am about taking this journey lifelong. I am in it with you. I want to be community with you. I want more than just, oh, here I'm trying to get this $79.99 out of you. It's not about
Right.
it is
Right.
about I am on this journey with you and I'm completely dedicated. God said, this is my purpose here, so this is what we're going to do. And I'm here with you,
Amen.
and I will walk with you. And if you need someone and you need some help, you need some tips, I'm here. That's all.
Amen. And we thank you for that. I totally, just want to again say thank you so much for bringing your light, your honesty, and your sparkle to this space. Self-care family, listen, if you guys felt this conversation in your spirit, be sure to drop green hearts in the comments. Most importantly, share this with someone who needs to hear that healing is possible, that self-love is real, and that your glow up is worthy of every messy step along the way. Um, Below, you'll see the contact information to get in touch with Tisha. Go out there. Listen, y'all want to hear more of the story? Go get Shattered
There was a lot
Illusion.
more. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of stuff that I left out
Yeah.
because my mother's listening to this podcast, but it's in the book.
Listen, y'all just go get the book. Do like me. Go get the book. Go to her website. Go to Amazon. By any means, get this book. And make sure you get through this. So that way when October 3rd comes, we can get our glow up on, you guys. We need this. And again, Queen, I thank you so much for taking up space with us and just, sharing your vulnerability with us, because like I said, I knew from the moment that I heard your story that this would be something to bless someone. So I thank you for, trusting me and my platform.
Also, I wanted to say the book launch.
Mhm.
Also, I'm hosting a paint and sip /book launch. So I'm actually going to be having an event here in the Vegas area. If
Okay.
anybody wants to connect or if anybody wants to attend, just hit me up on my socials. I have all of the information on my socials for the actual paint and sip /book launch. We
Perfect.
call it Books and Brushes. So come on out.
Absolutely. And yeah, definitely make sure you share that with us. We will post it in our community so that way those who are seeking it, they can go ahead and gain access to that. Um, and again, like I said, family, be sure to connect with her, tap into the resources that are available, because as you guys know, we are healing in community and we are healing out loud. Now, before we part ways, let me leave you all with just a little love and light. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. Keep choosing your peace, even when things feel just a little out of reach. And know that here at the Self Care Club, you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, to speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life, and I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been a Room to Breathe podcast, and I cannot wait to connect with you all again soon. Thank you.
I